Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing. Today I'm doing this beautiful winter scene, or it started out as a very winter scene and it kind of took on a life of its own, but you'll see that as we move along. I'm working on a 9x12 MDF board, and then some of the supplies that you see there are what I'm going to be using. That new Stupendous Merry Christmas stamp and a couple of my golden a fluid acrylic and then a regular golden acrylic. And so as you can see here, sorry, that went too fast. It's a winter scene originally. I didn't want to use the rice paper in whole, so I am going to do some collage work. I'm using that vintage music page because it has the print is green and I thought it would be really pretty. And then I also pulled some jelly prints from my stash that had some yellow and green that I really felt like accentuated the color of that little bird that's sitting on the fence. So right now I'm going to water cut my rice paper so that I can just take apart the part that I want to use. I don't throw anything away when it comes to rice paper, but I do want to do some collaging, so I am cutting it up a bit. In retrospect, I kind of wish I had left it whole. It gives a whole different result when you cut it up, and it was a bit of a challenging project, but I did persevere, and it turned out just fine. It was really iffy for a long time, though. I was like, oh man, did I just ruin this beautiful rice paper? But in the end, it turned out really beautiful. So I'm also just cutting out some of these other pieces with my water so that I can use them either in this piece or on something else. And I can't quite remember if I used all of it or not, but you'll see that as we move along. So here, just cutting out the bird there that's on the fence, and then just coming right up to the border of that fence. And this basically just gives you a really organic edge to the rice paper, which I think is really pretty. It's a lot more subtle. You could certainly cut it out if you preferred, but I just like to use the water because, again, I get this organic edge that is really quite nice. And I am going to use that little bit in the corner. I kind of wished that I had left that whole. Again, in retrospect, but it turned out beautiful. I have no complaints. So I have a hard time, as you probably already heard me say, retaining my light colors in my projects. And this one, I was definitely successful at that. So I was really pleased, even though it didn't end up really looking like a winter scene. But this is my Sunday's Art of Truth, and so there will be a story around that as well. So as there usually is. I'm using this vintage music page from my stash. I really liked it because it's green ink, and I thought it was just really lovely. So I thought I would go ahead and use it. So I do cut out some of the collaging again because it's fairly redundant, and the manner in which I put it down was really not very specific. I just was kind of trying to split up the different elements so that they spread out around the piece. And this is that jelly print that I was talking about that's predominantly yellow and green and really beautiful. And it did show up in the final piece in just really subtle ways. So our layers do tell a story, and they often do show up in surprising ways that are really they become part of the story of the piece. So, and then this yellow paper is also a jelly print that I did quite some time ago. And they're just finishing that collaging. And I did make sure that that was nice and dry. And I'm going to come in and use some gesso with my, I believe with my finger. Yeah, sorry. All over the piece just to kind of push back the color a little bit, as well as kind of disguise the lines that are created from the paper piecing, or the collaging. And then just picking a little bit of that up with my baby white because I do want that color to show through. I just don't want it to overtake the piece. So this is a really great way to do that. And the gesso also leaves a beautiful texture. So I'm coming in with my sap green hue. This is a golden acrylic and my golden glazing medium. And I'm going to do a glaze with that sap green. And you'll see I do 3 or 4 different glazes on this piece because I really, again, wanted that really transparent look. And I was really kind of indecisive as I moved through it. Again, this is, even though the final piece doesn't look awfully wintry, it did start out as a winter piece, and therefore that's where my thoughts were and where my heart was as I was creating it, which again does create some barriers for me. And so I just, I was pleased that I was able to push through it, even though I really had no idea where I was going or if I was going to like it. In the end, I absolutely adore it. And I love that about mixed media, in that there's very little that's trash. Like, you can either you keep pushing through until you get to a better result, or if you don't like it at all, you can gesso over it. I thought at points that I would just need to scrap this and gesso over it, but I didn't. So I was really pleased with that. So I was just I was placing that little bird with the fence down on the piece because I felt like I needed a little bit lighter background so that it would really pop off the piece. And so I'm coming in with Titan Buff fluid acrylic and my glazing medium. And this is one of those steps where I was like, I don't know what kind of effect this is going to have. But it actually was really, it was perfect. It was a good solution for kind of muting those colors back down a little bit in places. So as you'll see here in a moment, just kind of dabbing it up rather than completely wiping it as I would normally do with a glaze. I'm just being kind of particular and specific about where I'm moving that. And so I felt like that was a lot better, and it would make that element really pop off the page. So I do dry this before I go on to the next step. And in case I didn't mention that before, I do dry between every layer. I just don't want to waste your time leaving that in the video. So you can just know that I do that, and it's a good kind of process. So, and there I'm just attaching that rice paper with my fluid matte medium. That's Liquitex. And then just applied the rest of those. And as you can see, I did come in with some of those scraps and added those wintry parts back in. And again, that will be part of the story because of the process that I go through kind of emotionally and mentally when I'm creating around the holidays. So I'll be writing about what the meaning of that was for me as it turned out. So now I'm coming in with Sean Petit's stencil. This is Moroccan Tile 3, and I'm going to be using my heavy gesso and creating that pattern all around that open space where the rice paper is not. And I loved how this turned out. It did require me to come in with some glazes to kind of colorize that gesso, as well as just to create more interest on the bulk of the MDF board. So. And here I'm coming in with transparent red iron oxide. It's a very transparent paint, and my glazing medium, and I'm going to do a glaze with that as well. As you can see, it's very transparent. I mean, you could hardly see it. And I wondered at this point if this was even worth the doing. But again, the layers are very, they're meaningful. They're not only meaningful, but they do build interest. They do build on each other. And that's how I got the result that I did. So you can play around with that. The layers are often very unexpected, which is, again, the beauty of mixed media work. So I encourage you to just play around, experiment, and see what you like, and don't be afraid to kind of push yourself outside of the limits of what you're used to, which is definitely what I'm doing these days. So now I'm going to come in with the sap green hue and do a glaze as well. And again, I did dry in between each of these paint layers, just so you know. And again, each of these layers added to the effect that I got in the end, and it was unexpected. I didn't really know as I was moving through this what was going to happen. So, but the cool thing is that glaze settles into that texture and in different places and in different ways, and that's how it adds to the piece. And then just coming with the baby wipe, just kind of dabbing a little bit of that green here and there. So as you can see, obviously this is no longer really predominantly a winter scene. It's become kind of lighter and brighter. And so again, that will be part of the story on the blog that goes with the inspiration for this piece. And there again, drying. And now I'm going to come in with a raw umber glaze. This is a golden fluid acrylic as well. And my raw umber is always plugged up because it's one I use the most. I had a big bottle of it, but I've ran out, so I need to pick some more up. And then again, there's the glazing medium. I'm going to give it a good coat of the raw umber. And this was really what did it for me. This really settled the piece, in my opinion, and I was very, very happy with it after I wiped this back. And because it's a glaze, I can wipe it off of the elements, the rice paper parts, and lighten those back up so that glaze is not affecting the color there. And that's what I'm doing there. I'm just kind of taking my baby wipe and coming back over all those parts to bring out the brightness again. And a little bit of wasted paint, as usual. And then just coming in with my finger and that sap green hue and applying some of that green here and there. And I think kind of where I was at with this was I was kind of in this place of thinking about what the seasons mean and the transitions between them. And so this is almost like a spring winter kind of thing. Yeah, kind of different. So there I'm just showing you how that other rice paper with the trees showed up in the background, as well as the music notes. Really, really beautiful. I love the surprise of that. So now I'm going to come in with my black archival ink from Ranger and Sean Petit's, I believe this is Fave Words 2. It's the 12 by 16 size. And I'm not doing Journey as it looked like I was going to. I intended fully to do Believe. And so I'm just getting that set up on the MDF board and making sure that it's nice and straight. And then using my black archival ink again to get that on there. And there we go. And now I'm going to come in with another one of Sean's stencils. It's the Vintage Crosses stencil, and again with my black archival ink. I just felt like it needed a little bit more black. Black is neutralizing, and it's a good contrast to the light features of the background. And so I was really happy with it. I've actually never used this stencil. I ordered it, and then I was like, it's kind of gothic kind of feel to me, and I don't really care for that. But I think in the right project, it's really quite perfect. And in this one, it worked really well. I was really happy with it. The black archival ink is very, very bold, as you can see there, and I didn't like that. So in a moment, you're going to see me come in with a baby wipe and some alcohol and rub some of that ink off to lighten it and give it kind of a scratchy look, so it's not quite as solid black as you see there. Because it was archival ink and it was still, I had just done it, so it was probably wet. It did smear some of the black ink a little bit, but I think that just added to the effect. So there you can see I'm trying to wipe up some of it because it looked really messy to me. I love mixed media, but I don't like that messy, dirty kind of, I don't know, especially with black. So, but I really like that. I thought that was perfect. So now coming in with this Tim Holtz splatter stencil and doing some, again, using the black archival ink to add a little bit more black elements to the piece. And again, I think it's really subtle. I used this in a recent project and I really liked it. It's a great way to add black or white, which are both great colors to neutralize and balance a project or a piece out. So now I'm coming in with my golden fluid acrylic and I'm going to adhere that little bird. That was the bird that was in the original rice paper. And so I'm going to go ahead and adhere that. Just really was debating on where it needed to land and decided I wanted it to be closer to its friend there on the left. So, and kind of like it was sitting, like it was coming in for a landing on that fence. And I'm going to dry it real quick so that I can come in and do a little bit of shading. And then I also will come in with a permanent pin and complete those lines in the stencil again so that it doesn't look so stenciled. So I do that around the whole word. You certainly wouldn't have to do that. Sometimes it's kind of cool if you don't, depending on what the stencil is and what the word is or the font. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do my edging around the whole piece, and then I will also use my charcoal pencil and shade around my bird, not the bird on the left, but the one that I just put on. I really wanted it to kind of be the one that popped off the page and stood out. So here I am going to go ahead and shade that. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you'll hop on over to the blog and check out the writing, the inspiration for this piece. If you're interested in that, a list of the supplies will be on my blog, and a link to the blog will be in the description box. Again, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.